Hey everyone, I'm Natalie Bencivenga, host of 5 Minutes With, and this week I am honored to have one of my friends, Heather Tomko, with us today. She is a disability advocate and an all-around awesome lady. And a fun fact about Heather, she actually was Ms. Wheelchair USA 2018, which was part of the reason I got to meet her, which was very cool for me. But hey Heather, how are you doing?
Good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming and doing this with me, and I appreciate it so much. I have been wanting to chat with you about your perspective on everything that's been going on, but first maybe share a little bit about your personal journey with our audience.
Sure. So, my name is Heather. I have a disability called spinal muscular atrophy, or SMA. It is a neuromuscular disease. So, my muscles are very weak. I've never been able to walk. I've used a wheelchair since I was, I think, about 2 years old. So, there are many dents in the walls around the house, to show my progression in my driving skills. But that also means that I need help with lots of just normal everyday tasks. So getting in and out of bed, using the bathroom, taking a shower, getting dressed. These are all things that I can't do independently. So I rely on either my parents or care attendants to help me do those things. But I went to college at CMU. I just graduated with my master's of public health from Pitt, and I work at Pitt also. So I'm still out and about in the world.
And we're very lucky to have you out and about in the world because you're a
Thank you.
total badass. So it just makes total sense. So, speaking from your perspective, having grown up in Pittsburgh, one of the first times you and I connected was during a ramp event in Oakland, and it was to sort of highlight all of the bars and restaurants that were accessible to people who used wheelchairs and other mobility devices. Can you share what it's like living with a disability in the city of Pittsburgh?
Sure. So I think Pittsburgh is a difficult city and that it's built into, many hills. So
Mhm.
that geography makes it more difficult just to get around.
Mhm.
I'll still often call places and ask if they're accessible.
Mhm.
And they'll say, sure, we are. There's just one step to get in.
Mhm.
But I use a roughly 300-pound wheelchair. So that one step might as well be 10 steps because there's no way for me to get past that. And so I think that that's kind of emblematic of what I experience a lot, which is that accessibility and disability issues and concerns just aren't thought of.
Mhm.
If you ask someone with a disability about one step, they would immediately understand, oh no, that's a problem. But because people are used to taking a step without even thinking about it, the fact that that's a major accessibility barrier doesn't cross their mind.
Mhm.
And so it's not just, a step into a building. It's also things like transportation, where I would love to be able to call an Uber like
Mhm.
everyone else. But right now in Pittsburgh, there aren't any accessible Ubers. So I either have to have my own form of transportation and someone who can drive me, or I have to rely on the bus, which is a lot less of an on demand opportunity. And there is access, which is paratransit. And I think people think that because access exists, I
Mhm.
shouldn't need another option.
Mhm.
But you have to schedule access rides at least a day in advance
Mhm.
to have a really long waiting window of when you can expect the driver to show up. So it's not really comparable to Uber. And I just want to have those same opportunities that everyone else has. And right now, the accessibility considerations are often an afterthought if they're even thought of at all.
And do you think part of that is because now that we're looking at disability justice as a form of social justice, do you think a part of that is because there's just not enough people that are disabled that sit on these boards, that have positions in power, in positions of decision making, and how do we change that?
Yeah, I think that's a huge part of it, is that right now there are assumptions being made about the needs and the want of the disabled community rather than asking the members of the community themselves. So I have a nonprofit organization called Accessible Universe, and we held a summit last summer talking about all of the good and bad for Pittsburgh accessibility. And at the end of the day, when we came up with the number one concern for accessibility, it was sidewalks. Now, if you ask someone not in the disability community, I don't think they would think that sidewalks are a pressing disability issue. But that is essentially, for somebody in a wheelchair, that's my street. If the sidewalks aren't in good condition, I'm stuck. So it really is the need of reaching out and ensuring voices of people with disabilities are included in every single conversation, because every issue has a disability aspect to it. So if you don't include those voices, you're going to leave out a huge proportion of the population.
And I think that makes total sense, the sidewalk issue. I wouldn't have obviously thought of that myself. So this is like you said, this is why inclusive conversations are so necessary to real change, to real progress. And if we take that scope and we expand it out as we wrap up this 5 minutes, can we talk a little bit about your feelings on the response of COVID-19 as it pertains to the disabled community and what you think needs to happen moving forward politically? What are your thoughts?
Sure. So it's been really frustrating as someone who is considered to be at higher risk for a severe case of COVID. It's been really frustrating to hear these conversations around, only people with pre-existing conditions or who are older are at risk, so we don't need to worry about that. But as someone who is at higher risk, I still think my life and the lives of everyone else has value regardless of my condition. So it's been really, really frustrating to hear that vein in the conversation over and over and over. And I think that in terms of moving forward in the future, we need a change in power, and I'm really working hard to convince anyone and everyone to vote for Biden in November. I think his team has done a great job in centering the voices of people with disabilities, not only in the response to COVID, but also in things like marriage equality, where right now, people with disabilities, if they get married, they run the risk of losing access to their benefits, not only in insurance, but in things like paying for the care attendance that I receive. So they're making the choice between getting married or maybe being able to get out of bed independently. And so it's all of these issues that have a disability side to them that we really need to elect people in power who are aware of this and who are thinking of this and really centering the voices of people with disabilities. And Biden has been the only one to do that in this election. So, if I can close in any way to say, please think about me and the other people with disabilities whose lives really will be impacted in a very real way by this election in November.
Thank you so much, Heather. I think you really hit the nail on the head talking about this idea of empathy and thinking of the other and thinking outside yourself. And instead of mocking those or talking down to people that are different from you, really widening that space and saying there's room for all of us to thrive. So I really admire the work that you do for the advocacy around disability justice. You're definitely one of my sheroes, and I'm just so honored to have this opportunity to chat with you and to spend 5 minutes. So I hope you'll come back and talk to me soon.
Absolutely. Thanks so much.
Thank you.